Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. This is a Gottlieb 4-player Ship-Mates Pinball Machine. We had a customer bring us this and wanted us to fix it up. So we got it in a few months ago actually, and we haven't worked on it yet. The main reason being because of the back glass, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the thing's in pretty rough shape cosmetically. The playfield, not so much. So we think it's going to work just fine, and we're going to be able to get it going. These are cool. This is the era where they had the different size legs on them, and it kind of did one of these numbers in the cabinet. But we'll just check out the cabinet first. You can see the original paint is in pretty rough shape. That metal piece there, I believe, was painted on the original ones, and it's all flaking off. Coin door has a lot of rust. The edges of the lockdown bar here, that's from people putting their hand on it. Just the acid from your, or the oil, I guess, from your skin rots that away for a while. So it's interesting that that one's worn and that one's not very much. Maybe it's because you lean on it while you're pulling the thing. I don't know. I mean, that's how I'm playing the flipper. Huh, that's interesting. One side's worse than the other. Much worse than the other. Okay, so the side art on this side, you can see it's similar. Now it has that thing going on where, I don't know how much that'll show up, but it's yellow and white. It could be that someone cleaned off some of the yellowing. Maybe it's just nicotine or something. See the streaks in it from the white up above? I don't know. But the front, it's pretty yellowed. And this side, it's just pretty much just all yellowed. It has a simple little design though, so I think Joe's going to actually just repaint it by hand. So we're going to see if we can get this looking much more presentable. Alright, so before we look at the back glass, let's look at the playfield. Now, one of the things we pride ourselves on, not just with pinball machines, but with all kinds of stuff, is you have to look past the obvious and see what's under the obvious. So one of the reasons this looks so bad is because it has a piece of plexiglass in it. That's just an old piece of plexiglass. So that is scratched all to hell, and it's all foggy looking, and so that's part of it. Okay, so under that plexiglass, where I look at the playfield has a lot of dirt on it, but it's in decent shape. Most of the paint is still there. It's got the typical issues where it's got some planking and stuff like that going on. And there's a little bit of wear at the kick-out holes. But it's not the end of the world. Got a little bit of wear up here around one of the pop bumpers. But again, not really bad. And, you know, this is a 60s Gottlieb. It's early 60s Gottlieb. It's a really cool looking game. So it's worth saving, definitely. But that playfield's rough. I mean, the playfield is not rough, the cabinet's rough. But okay, so this is why we've been waiting to work on it. It's this freaking back glass. This poor thing has seen much better days. Let me go turn off the jukebox. The jukebox is on autoplay, we're testing it out. Okay, so this thing, it's faded a lot, but it has flaked away in major areas. Now, I have often repaired screwed up back glasses here on this channel. So sometimes we can do that, but this one is just too far gone to really be saved. I don't think anybody would really save it. You could just see how bad it is. So I've done worse than that before. But once you get over here to the guy, he's just got the whole leprosy thing going on, and the little girl on his shoulder, same thing with her. I wonder which one of them's the devil and which one of them's the angel. She's tickling his chin. He's got his arms crossed. It would have been cool to get this one done in time for Labor Day, but over here, once you get past that, there's like major areas of the paint missing with tons of art on it. That can't really be repaired where it would ever look decent at all. So you're in a situation where you really just need to replace the back glass. And, you know, I don't like doing that. I would rather keep the original back glass. Here's a Williams student prints that we've had around for a while. You can see on this one, the playfield's in horrible shape. All messed up. And the back glass on the bottom there has some serious problems. But all in all, it's still presentable. Some people would want a brand new glass for that too. I'm just going to save it. I think it's pretty good the way it is. I mean, it needs a little work. I'm just going to make it look a little better than it does now and save it. And that's typically what we do. But this one's just too far gone. And so when Donnie brought it to us, not my brother Donnie, Rodney's brother Donnie actually. There's two Donnies. Donnie brought it to us, and it's just, we just told him, man, that back glass, I don't think we can save it. And so we set about on a quest to get another replacement back glass. So there's only one place that you can get this particular title if yours is all screwed up. So basically the only place that you can get a glass for that game, and several of them, is bgresto.com. And a lot of basically this guy uses a different process of creating the glass, and he's able to do a one-off glass. Now if you have a Gottlieb glass like this that's restored, basically he's going to make you a new glass if it's in the shape mine's in, and then you have to promise to get rid of the old glass. You have to destroy the old one. Basically, it's not, they don't have a license to make brand new glasses that they sell, so that you have to replace your original with their basically restored one, which is essentially a whole new glass. So that's how it has to be done. So basically, you have to you have to agree that you're going to get rid of the old glass, destroy the old glass. This one's already destroyed, so it's not too big of a stretch to have to take it the rest of the way. So we've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and we finally got the thing in. So I'm going to show you how, kind of what we received in the mail, and then we'll go from there looking at the rest of the game. We'll put that glass away until we get to the very end of the machine so that we don't scratch it or break it or screw it up or anything. But basically, we had to wait around for the glass to come in before we started working on it. We just wanted to make sure we had all the parts before we did our thing. All right, people, we finally got it in. We have been waiting on the back glass for this Gottlieb Ship-Mates for a while now, and we finally got it. So we're going to open it up and see what do we have here. This was made for us by BG Resto to replace our bad one here. Been looking for a while. It takes them a while to get caught up. They've got like a ton of work. So let me open this up. All right, I got it cut. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? I don't know that you're ready, people. Well, we're not going to completely unbox it yet. I just wanted to show you what it looked like when we got it. That does look like what we're looking for. And this is glass, baby. So I'll give you just a little look. Alright, so we did get it in. So that means we can start working on the game. Very cool. Okay, so now that we've got that in, we can check this sucker out. So we just plug it in, right? Probably not. I'm not going to plug it in. Now, I usually, lately, have been plugging them in just to see what the customer was seeing. So I used to never plug them in. I'd just start fixing them and then plug them in after I'd worked through them a little bit. But and lately I've been just plugging them in because the customer's going to has already done that anyway. I'm sure Donnie plugged this in whenever he got it. But on one like this, I mean, there ain't no way in hell the thing works. So I just don't want to fry another. I'm not going to screw with that. I just noticed there's a pretty rough dent right on the lockdown bar. So we're not going to plug it in. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take off the lockdown bar. I'm going to slide out that piece of plexiglass and get rid of it. And then we're going to lift up the play field and see what the inside of this thing looks like. I need y'all to pray and hope for me that there's no rats that have ate half of the harness. I don't think there is, but we'll see. I had to reach in and grab that bar and pull on it. You never know what's in one of these suckers. There's a picture floating around the internet from way back in the day where some guy was messing with one of these outside, just a random pinball machine. And when he opened it, there was a big black snake about that big around, coiled all up inside of that freaking thing, just chilling. So watch your hand when you stick it in there, folks. Boy, it looks pretty good to me. The outside looked beat up, but you know nobody's been in here, so this looks pretty decent. Big old reset bank over here on the right with a ton of coils on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 or 12 of them. It has the schematics that will help. Yeah, it all looks pretty good. So it has one of their famous roto targets on it. There's a couple. There's one that looks like a carousel, and then there's this one. Look at that. That's how the target's behind it. I hope it spins clockwise. If it tries to spin the other way, it's going to break something. Boy, it looks really good. You know what this reminds me of is that one we did called Masquerade. Yeah, cobwebs on it. I don't know how well you can see them. Probably been sitting a long time. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 5 or 6 accoutrements hanging over here, some kind of relays. And then a little reset bank or something back there too. Boy, it's cool. Cool old game. It's gonna be awesome to play this thing. Look at the front after I took off the lockdown bar. I don't know, Donnie, it's yellowed a little bit. So we'll see how good we can get it. We're not going to do the splatter paint. We're just going to do it by hand with a foam brush. You can do this with stencils and do it the right way. Do it with a spray gun to get the splatter paint and everything on it. But man, you're talking a lot of work, a lot of money you have to charge the customer. So we're going to paint it by hand, get it looking a lot better than it looks now, but it's not going to be factory perfect, you know. Okay, so the back door has a bunch of tape on it. I'm going to take all that off, and so we can take the back door off and see what the inside of the head looks like. All right. So it looks complete. I don't see anything missing anywhere in the machine, except a couple little things on the playfield. Big old rat trap score reels. I wonder if they trapped any rats in there. Several relays over here, obviously. Yeah, was it the Masquerade that was just like this, or was it the... we had one that had rust all over it. I can't remember. It may have been the... we did a pool-themed one that had the little pool balls in the back box that was similar to this, too. It's just the really strong composition back then, like the way the metal and stuff that they built everything out of was just heavy and thick, and you can tell they weren't as careful with spending extra money back then. Now this white stuff, that's interesting. What is that? I don't know if that's mold or it's just, I don't think it is. It almost looks like it was just on there from the factory. It's some kind of paint or something. What do you think? Should I touch it? Let's touch it. I'm gonna touch it. What do you think? Yeah, that's paint. So why would there be paint on there? I don't know. Maybe it's a scrap piece of wood from the factory. Now remember, the other side is painted. So the front side's painted white. So it's probably just paint got on the back of it somehow. Somebody stepped on it or had it on their hand or something. But the other side of that piece of wood will be all white so that it reflects the lights a little bit better. And then this board here is where the 4 Jones plugs plug in. It's so that you can separate the head from the bottom. The wires are kind of discernible. They haven't all faded. They do look pretty dusty, so I think maybe for a long time it could have been that the back door was on it but not taped on it, so it was sitting open or something and dirt and dust could get down in there, but it didn't really fade the wires. A lot of times these wires will all be like the exact same color, but on this one you can still see, you can kind of differentiate the colors, so that'll be good if we have to track something down. So all in all, I think it's a pretty cool little machine to start with. The cabinet's in rough shape, but the electronics all look pretty decent to me. That can all be fixed. And that back glass, of course, was destroyed, so we had to get a replacement for that. The actual playfield itself has held up pretty good. So I don't know. What do you think? Well, I guess we could plug it in. I mean, it's not as bad off as I thought it was, so the only thing I'm worried about is much better. Oh look, as soon as I did it, it went back the other way. Let me see which way that thing spins. Yeah, see, I don't want to do this. Look, that's how you break crap, you know what I mean? If it tries to spin, oh yeah, I don't wanna. Yeah, you see that crap? See that? I don't like that, man. I wonder if that unplugs. No, doesn't appear to. So I don't want to mess with it too much until we get a chance to work on it, you know what I mean? Hell, if I spin that around and it breaks one of those pieces off, I'm gonna be schlonged. It's gonna take me forever to fix that. So we might remove that and then try it or something. Alright folks, I looked in the schematics, and the only way that thing can turn is if the L, the O, or the P relay comes on. The L relay is this, for when that spins through there. You can see the spring's actually missing. And the O relay is the 5-point relay, and the P relay is the 50-point relay. It shouldn't have any way to score that, so we're going to try it. Now they have rigged up the cord here. Looks like they cut the cord off a VCR and taped it to the other cord. All right, let's see if anything happens. Now there's no power switch, I don't believe. Nothing. Deader in hell. Let me make sure there's no power switch. Yeah, there's no power switch. Nothing. Let's try starting it. Something clicked. Alright, so there you go. You plug it in and nothing happens. There's no power switch. So we're starting from the very beginning on this one. Alright, I pulled the playfield out so we can see it a little better. They had this rubber thing in there attached to these 2 hooks. That's not original, but they just did that so that the wires coming off the harness coming off the playfield doesn't hang down on top of these relays and screw them up. They plug in back there, but they're kind of long so that you can tilt the playfield back. So sometimes when it's laying here, those things are hanging down and touching relays. So you got to be careful about that. Yeah, everything's cool. All right, so I'm going to clean it up a little bit and hit it with the vacuum. All right, so I have checked the fuses, and this fuse is hella blown. You don't even need a meter for that one, folks. You can tell, can't you? You can tell that's blown. Come on, people, that's obviously blown. So that's that. So the fuse that it was... Now remember, whenever I hit the switch, I could hear a click. But the fuse that it was this one, with a red and yellow wire on it and a red and white wire going to it. Okay, so that's basically all of the secondary coils. None of those can come on. But there's a couple down here that can come on. The W, the E, the K, and the bank setup. Now I hit the replay button, yeah. So I hit this switch right here. So this thing is shown, let's see how it's drawn. Usually it's drawn like waiting for you to hit start. Whatever. Okay, yeah. So this one would be normally closed. So power would connect through the main fuse, through the bounce switch, that's the one on the bottom. The shutoff switch, I think, may also be the one on the bottom. The anti-cheat switch, I think, is the one on the door. And then if the SB relay hasn't tripped, the replay button switch would get power through here. You hit start. If the motor is in its home position where it should be now, the motor is over on this side of the transformer, so it can't work. So if it's still sitting in its home position, and ZB, I think, is like, I don't remember. If one of those isn't tripped, whenever you hit that, and if that one isn't tripped, and if the replay unit isn't at 0, so you have credits on it, it would turn on relay E. Okay, relay E is... These schematics are in bad shape. They're obviously the original ones. The replay button relay. That makes sense, doesn't it? So the replay button relay comes on, and then it will close the switch on itself and hold itself on as long as the score motor doesn't turn and open that switch. Right? So that's what happened. When I hit start, it turned on that one relay because it's over here and it runs off of 120 instead of running off of 25 volts. That's just how that went. So that's why we heard a click, but nothing happened. For the, let's see, what's the next thing I can show? Yeah. For the transformer to come on, to light that up and light that up. Wow, double excuse me. For the transformer to come on, you have to get power from here over to here. It's hardwired. And then you have to get power through the fuse, through all these, blah, 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 through this relay. Either the K relay will do it, or the R relay will do it, or the W relay will do it. Let me see how W acts. Okay, W can only turn on if you hit the coin switch. Okay. K can only turn on if you hit the coin chute. So when you hit that switch, it would turn either that one on or that one on. But what I did was I hit the start button, which turned on E, which won't turn either one of those on, which is supposed to try to turn on the reset relay. Yeah, now I see. So E holds itself on. but it also closes this little switch on E. So power should connect through here, up to here, across here, through here, and turn on K. So when E comes on, it should turn on K. Okay? When K turns on, it should connect this and turn on the transformer. Since the two fuses that do the lights weren't burnt, it should have turned on the lights. But it didn't. So that could be all kinds of stuff. That could be the switches on the E relay. It could be the switches on the K relay. Lots of stuff. So I'm going to start cleaning switches on the whole bottom of the machine. And see if I can figure out what the issue is.
All right. We're working on this Ship-Mates for a friend of ours. And I'm going to start repainting the cabinet. Now this isn't going to be a perfect restoration. I'm just going to do a kind of quick and dirty paint job on this thing. Just going to repaint all this kind of a cream color and then do the blue and the red. And he's not all that picky. He just wants it to look a little bit better than it is now. So I'm not going to be going through doing any Bondo or anything like that. I'm just going to go right over all these wear spots in it. This side here is probably the worst. Of course, I'm going to paint all the legs. I'm going to paint the coin door. And I'm just going to do it all by hand with a foam brush pretty much. So I'm going to get started and we'll see how it turns out. Alright, I got the white painted. I need to put another coat on the head part of it, but... And obviously I'm not too concerned about getting it on the red and the blue because I'm going to come back next with those two colors and overlap the white a little bit and try to get all my lines pretty straight. But while that's drying, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to paint these legs here. I just sand them down. When they're real rusty like that, I sand them down. And I actually like to use hammered paint. So I'll get some gray hammered paint. And that'll hide a lot of the imperfections in them, since these are pretty rusted. And they'll end up looking like this. I like to put new bolts in them too. It kind of sets them off a little bit, and they're pretty cheap. So that's next.
So I went to dinner. Joey said he was going to work on the pinball while I was gone. That ain't the same. He repainted but the coin door was all rusted. How would I know if it's the same? I guess it's the same game. Boy, he's quick. It's like 20 minutes. Oh, the paint's still wet. That's how he did it. It's still wet. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that looks pretty good. So the best way to do these is to stencil it. Create stencils. Cut them out. Sand down the cabinet. Fill in all the imperfections. Put some primer on it. Put your stencils up. Paint in the color. Paint in the body color. Put splatter paint on it. Then paint in the other colors with the stencils. But, you know, the best way to do it is also the most time-consuming way to do it. And the most expensive way to do it. if you're charging someone for it. So, you know, to be honest, to get a top quality paint job where you take it all apart and do what I was just talking about, I mean, you're probably, if you can find someone willing to do it, you're probably talking about $1,000 just because of the time involved. So as a hobbyist, though, I would encourage you to do that yourself. You know, if you've got plenty of time to sit the thing around, it's not uncommon for people to be working on a game like this to where they take it apart and they're painting on it for maybe a month or two to get it just right. But we did not paint on it for a month or two. This is, it probably took 7-8 hours, something like that. So I was just kidding. He didn't do it while I was at lunch. All right, but it's looking a lot better. I need to clean the inside of it, though. We didn't paint that. So I've went through and cleaned switches. All of these relays, and basically you're just looking for anything that's not adjusted right. Everything seems fine. I cleaned the switches on the score motor. Again, everything seems fine. So we have this relay bank here. I haven't cleaned them yet, so I'm going to pull that back so we can look at what it looks like underneath. All right, so here's what I want to show you. This relay bank is just a work of art. Look at this thing. If you're into mechanical contraptions, here you go. So they have arranged 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's a random number, isn't it? They have arranged 11 sets of relays on this bar. And each of them, of course, have a purpose. Let me see if I can read it upside down. It says first player, thousands relay. Second player, thousands relay. Third player, thousands relay. Fourth player, thousands relay. Second player relay. Third player relay. Fourth player relay. So basically, if you start a second player game, that trips. First ball relay. Game over relay. Start relay. Last ball relay. Okay, so on the start relay, there is a really interesting switch. I've shown this before. If I can move this with one hand, I think I can. Let me show you just how one of the relays works. So we'll do with this, well, let's do this tall one here because it's cool. So you have a coil down here underneath this that you can't see. It's actually down here. And when that coil energizes, it's going to electrically, magnetically, pull this plate that way. And when it does, it's going to cause this armature to fall. Right? And it's just done with springs and stuff. And on this armature, there are these little yellow posts or whatever you want to call them. And then you have the blades of the switches. So this switch, blade, and the one below it are not touching. So that switch is open right now. And the same with this one. And you see one of the blades is long and one of them short. And so when this bar falls, when this armature falls, that will hit this and close that switch. And at the same time that's happening, down here you've got something similar going on, except this one, the big switch, is a make and break switch. So it's already connected to the one above it, and it's not connected to the one below it. But the one in the middle is the long one. So when this falls, it will hit this, which will disconnect it from the one above it and connect it to the one below it. And the same over here. And they've also put a little spacer on it so that at the same time it will push another one over here to make it disconnect. Okay, and so they've got all kinds of little switches that do all kinds of things. So whenever this plate pulls in, it trips like that. Now I did it, it hit my hand and didn't do it real quick, but it usually will do it, at the speed of gravity. And there's a spring pulling it and all of this, right? So that has now made all of those switches things. So this switches change state. So this relay here Once it drops, the only way to reset it is this big coil on the back will pull in, right? And whenever it pulls in, it will push this around, which is going to reset this entire setup. Right? And notice it's right in the middle of the bar. It's not on the end like they did on some relay banks, like drop target relay banks. But the most interesting switch in the whole game is this one. What happened? On the start relay, there is a switch here that is open when the relay is up. When the relay is reset, this switch is open. And it's really hard to see it, and it's hard to adjust it. I would love to be able to show that to you. Let me see if I can find an angle here where you can see it. I'd like to show you that it's open. There you go. So see how it's open? And it's just a long blade and the end of it's bent. But if this were to trip, I don't know if I can do it because the bar is going to be in the way. Oh, yeah, you can see it. There you go. So if this were to trip, it allows that switch to close. And so that switch stays closed until the relay bank resets and opens back up. That switch is really important and it's really easy to be misadjusted because it's constantly being bent by the armature plate resetting and all of that, right? And it on every game, right? So you have to get that one right. So let me show you in the schematics what that switch is doing. So when the game is started, see all of these switches, it says score runoff switches? See how they're all open? That's if all of the scores are at 0. So if any of the score relays or the score reels are not at 0, and there are 12 score reels, there's 3 for each player. If any of them are not at 0, like for instance you've ever played a game on it and scored 1 point, if any of them are not at 0, they need to reset at the very beginning of the game back to 0. So that switch on at least one of the score runoff reels will be on 1 if you only scored 1 miserable point, right? So one of them will not be at 0. That is going to turn on the D1 and the D2 reset relays. And so let me see what they're actually called. It's not the reset, it's the... Yeah, they are. Reset relay, reset relay. Okay? So that is going to turn on those reset relays. Now, they will hold on until all of those switches are back to 0. And then they will no longer be held on and will turn themselves off. When they do, down here, this switch will close, because it's drawn in the normal position of the game. So that switch will close back. And as the score motor is turning, the switch on motor 4C will at some point close. And since the reset is done and they have turned off, that will be closed. And once the ball's played unit gets back to 0, that switch will close. And if the SB, that's the one we were just looking at, if the start relay armature switch is closed. Now remember, we said it closes if the start relay has tripped. If that switch is closed, so in other words, if the start relay is tripped, our jukebox is trying to talk to us. I honestly don't know if the YouTube algorithm can even tell what song that is. I know what song it is, but they're playing it on a trumpet. I'll bet it don't know. We'll let it play. We'll see if they make me delete it. They may think it's a cover song I'm doing. All right. Well, If I have to delete it, you won't hear the rest of the story. I better stop. Sounds pretty good, brother. So it's all reset. That switch should be closed. Fuse isn't blown. Boom! It'll reset that bar we were just talking about. Now, without that, the thing will just stay in. It'll just stay screwed up, right? Because the start switch will stay dropped. I mean, the start relay will stay dropped. So if the start relay is dropped constantly, you're going to run into all kinds of problems. Like, for instance, that will be thrown, which means that the score motor will be running nonstop. Big problems. All right, so I put the playfield back in, cleaned all the switches in the bottom. I cleaned the Jones plugs on the playfield, plugged them back in. Let's see if we get anything different at all. How did I do it before? Did I just hit the left flipper button? Let's do it with a card so I don't get electro killed. Nope, that wasn't it. One of these days I'm going to get that right. Let's try the start button. Ah! Aha! Did you see that? A few things turned on. The game didn't start, but we have lights. So we have our first signs of life. Now, I will admit, earlier whenever I hit the button, I heard it go click. But it wasn't enough to hold anything on. But now we've got a couple light bulbs here. Those are on the coin. Let me turn off the lights. We've got all kinds of stuff in the shop here that we're working on right now, folks. Beautiful old jukebox. A couple EM pinball machines. A Sega Outrun. Wait till you see what we do with those. You're not going to believe it. This one here, incredible. But this is the one that we're working on right now. That didn't really help. Yeah, there it is. So there is a little light for the coin slots. The camera can't tell what I'm trying to do. So that's pretty cool. So all that we've been able to accomplish so far is to get the freaking light bulbs to turn on. Now there's no on-off switch on these. It's a little bit too early. Let me unplug it, and then we'll hit that button again just to see if that's going to be a permanent thing or not. Nothing. Now remember, we haven't actually cleaned anything on the playfield, and we haven't cleaned anything in the back box, including the Jones plugs. But if I hit start, so it's attempting to do something. So another thing we can try is to spin the score motor. Houston, we have found our problem. Score motor won't run. I wonder if it's just unplugged or something. I didn't put one of the fuses back in. Well, that would do it. Joey got painting on the cabinet, and I forgot all about it. Let's put one in. All right, so I put it back in. Now, if you'll remember, when we looked at the schematics, there is the primary side of the transformer that is all 110, and there are a few coils over there. Okay, there's the transformer. And then there's the secondary side of the transformer, which appears as 25 volts. That's the one that had the fuse missing. So, but it was blown. Remember? So y'all stand there and watch it, and I'll see if I can stretch Armstrong over here and plug this thing in. Tell me if it blows the fuse. Did it blow it yet? Not yet. Okay, so why didn't the score motor turn back to home position? It's because it's on the secondary side of the transformer, and the transformer isn't turned on yet. Remember? So I'm going to hit start, and it very well may blow the fuse. Now we're worse than we were. I wonder if I blew the other fuse messing with it. Let's try turning it. Or I wonder if my problem is I used all the credits. Wrong way. I don't think you can subtract credits right now. Well, we're worse than we were, people. What was pulling in over here? Huh! Huh! You know those 120 coils, they bite you a little more if you get bit with one of them. So when I hit this, we're getting everything, but then it gets somewhere and it stops again. But she's trying. She's trying. We have a little bit of signs of life, so we'll keep messing with it on the next video. We need to do the back box, but in this video, you know, we checked it all out, got the cabinet painted, and got it at least trying to light up. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below what you think so far. Make sure to give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it for you. And make sure to check out my brother Donnie. If you don't know about my brother's channel, he has a channel here on YouTube as well. Joey and I work on arcade games, pinball machines, and jukeboxes. Our brother Donnie, I just say my brother Donnie just because I like that phrase better whenever I'm pitching his channel. But it's both of our brothers. My brother Donnie's channel has a, you know, he does old buildings, old vehicles, things like that. And he has a farm with cows, goats, chickens, all that good stuff. So go check out his channel. I'm over there with him a lot of times. And we will see you back in a couple days where we'll get a little farther on this beautiful Ship-Mates Pinball Machine.